Hi, it's Allison from the Law School Toolbox and the Bar Exam Toolbox. Today, we're talking about California's recent decision to outsource part of the development of the bar exam to Kaplan. So, fun times, Lee, huh?
Oh my gosh. Can we just talk about how I was on vacation when this news broke? And I kind of missed it because I was on vacation. And then somebody sent us a note about it. And I had a moment where I really kind of heard the record skip, and you're like, what is happening? I don't understand. I was like, that doesn't compute. Even with my vacation brain, that does not compute.
All right, well, for a recap, for those who are not yet familiar about this insanity, here is what is going on in California. Well, the California bar says it's running out of money, kind of per usual, but more so than normal, apparently. They want to get into remote testing at test centers. The NCBE, who writes the standard bar exam, particularly the MBE, which is the most relevant piece we'll talk about today, won't let them do that for probably fairly obvious reasons. Also, the NCBE is phasing out the MBE, which California uses, but not until 2028. So, what did California do? Looking at all of these things, they decided in early August to have Kaplan, who is, of course, not a test writing company, write them a new test, which, fair enough, by 2028, they're going to need this new test. However, they're planning to give the new multiple choice section, wait for it, in February, which poses a few problems. Lee, what are some of these problems?
Oh my gosh. There are so many problems. I don't even know exactly where to start. Well, let's start with the fact that, we have students who are studying for this test already. Whether they're foreign trained attorneys or people who are studying part-time or took the last administration off, people are now prepping for a test that hasn't been written yet. And we don't exactly know what it looks like at all. I guess we know what the essays look like, sort of.
Well, those are not changing, to be fair, right now. They will change eventually.
Good.
Yeah. For like the next test, at least, we're only talking about the multiple choice. So right now, if you're gonna practice your essays, your PTs, you're good. You can keep doing that.
Yeah. Now, multiple choice, though, as we know, it's very hard to write multiple choice questions. We have done this exercise, and it is not easy.
I kind of find it hysterical that that's what they decided to start with. It's like, oh, we're going to just write 200 multiple choice questions.
Yeah.
All of which take like a long time if you do them yourself. I don't know, maybe ChatGPT can just write them, but maybe we'll get into this. Maybe a few copyright issues all around with all of that. But these are they're not easy to write. And the other thing is they're not easy to test and validate. Like you don't just, no test just like writes a question and uses it like the next week. That's not really how this works.
No, this is why the NCB always includes experimental questions as part of every administration. They are testing questions for validity before they include them on the test. Also, you need to mix up the questions. You can't just have the same 200 question set and be like, oh, we'll just do that in February. And then we'll mix up the order and do it in July. People are going to start memorizing them. That's a terrible idea. Is that what they're going to do? They don't say. Oh my gosh, it makes me really anxious.
I think we're not alone. Everyone is like, what the about this? It's just a family-friendly podcast. But really, seriously, like WTF. There's so many things about this that just are frankly kind of insane. Do we even know how the next test will be administered? Is it going to be at a test center? Or are you going to have to go in person? We don't even have that basic information right now.
What about people with accommodations? What sort of testing center are they going to take their test at? Is it going to be at these testing centers? Where are these testing centers? Where are they? What are they? I don't understand.
I remember back when I took the GRE, a long time ago, I just went to a local neighborhood testing center and I sat down and took it. And they, it was adaptive. They gave me harder questions if I got them right, that kind of thing. So I think that ultimately is the goal, which again, fair enough if you can figure out how to make that work. when everybody needs to do it kind of at the same time, or the questions are going to be leaking out. But I just don't see where doing this in like literally a few months makes any sense for anyone. I
No.
mean, they're like saying in the fall they're going to release some samples. It's like that's way too late for this. Like people are going to find out they failed and then suddenly they're supposed to be taking this whole different thing. I mean, because either it's basically the same thing, in which case they're probably infringing the copyright of the existing NCBE questions, which is a whole separate issue we'll get to in a little while, or it's not the same thing, in which case, WTF? Like, what are people supposed to do to prepare in literally a matter of like a few weeks, basically?
I know. And then I also feel like that some bar takers are going to probably also file lawsuits about this. I mean, I don't know what the grounds would be, but there could be like reliance, discrimination. They didn't like validate the tests. Like, I don't know, but I feel like that some attorneys are sitting down and making a list of possible claims because this just doesn't sound right to me in my advanced legal knowledge.
No, the other kind of fun aspect of it is Kaplan has to get out of the market, obviously, for test prep in California. But like people have already signed up, presumably, to use their stuff. Like,
oh my gosh.
I mean, are they just like going to get a refund? And like, oh, sorry, you have to go to some other company like now. I mean, the whole thing is just like, it's just beyond.
It is really bizarre. And why do you have to do it right now? I understand that the bar is running out of money. I mean, I don't because I'm still licensed by the California bar and my bar dues are a fortune. So,
right. Well,
as you know,
at least
because you see my bar bills.
well,
But,
at least you get to actually be an attorney. I'm inactive and I still pay like half of what you pay for literally nothing.
It's true. That's true.
That's nothing. True. I think maybe they offer me life insurance policies. That's it.
Well, at least you don't have to do your CLE, which is coming up for me. And I'm going to be even more salty about doing all my CLE and then paying those bills because the bar can't manage its own money and make good choices. You know, on our work chats, our Slack channel, we've had some discussions about this when the news came out. When I got back from vacation and was like, wait, what? What? Like, what has been happening? And I feel like it's a universal confusion. Everybody believes this is a terrible idea, and no one sees how this is going to go well. I mean, this really feels like other kind of debacle type things that the bar has done, like, say, a number of years ago, releasing the subjects that were going to be tested on the exam on accident, or, you know, all the other mistakes that they've made. It just seems like I don't know why they would want to create such instability so quickly. They had till 2028.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of seeing like, what is it, Fry Fest plus California Bar, whatever. I don't even know what to call it. All combined into one really poor set of decision making. It also has the feel to me of like somebody's on the golf course who happens to like work for the bar, who's like on their buddy's golf trip with somebody from Kaplan, who's totally like, oh man, no, we can like disrupt the bar, man. Yeah, like this AI stuff, Chat GPT, yeah, we can totally just knock this out for you, man. And then they went back and signed a contract.
Yeah, for like, what was it, 8 point something million? I mean, on one hand, that's a lot of money. But on the other hand, you're like, that's a lot cheaper than administering the bar? Like, how much money are you spending administering the bar?
I mean, that's a separate question that maybe we should take up with other people. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it does not feel very well thought out. And like, I really feel for the people who are trying to navigate this situation because like, if we're flipping out, what are they being somebody who's planning to like take the bar exam in a few months? I mean, literally the next exam is like, if you're taking the bar again and you're taking this exam and this exam does not even conceptually exist right now.
Yeah. I mean, results come out in November. We're recording this in late August. So November is not that far away when you look at the calendar. Yes, it still feels like summer outside, but as my daughter was remembering, Halloween is coming. November is going to be here before we know it. And we are hoping that we have some examples and then we're just supposed to study off of the old like framework. I mean, the whole thing just feels so uncertain and really chaotic and unnecessarily so. You know, it's like not a surprise that the bar is in money trouble. I mean, I've seen press releases about that for years and years of like, oh, the bar is still running out of money. Like, we're trying to make cuts. Okay, that's fine. But it's not like it was a surprise this year that it got a lot worse. But yeah, it just doesn't feel well thought out. And like, what is the board of directors of the bar doing? Like, do they remember what it's like to study for these tests? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I feel like the level of chaos. I mean, I honestly feel like it's even more chaotic than it was during COVID, which at least there was an excuse and a reason, but it was also
Yeah.
super chaotic for people and like very, very challenging to like revamp how you're thinking about the test and where you're taking it. And like, we had to do a whole podcast on like, how do you take the test if you don't have access to write something down? Like, we don't even know like in February what that's going to look like.
I know.
But hey,
And then you also think about, the added stress of all of those folks who are going to sit for the bar, and then they have to figure out how to curve it. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, what are they just going to like, everyone's going to take it and they're going to be like, well, we just see what happens. I mean,
I think actually that's kind of what it is like, oh, well, we'll just figure out how to scale it after we give it. Because that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no time to validate any of this. It's not like you can go out and test some questions with a bar population. Like, it's the next exam. They just signed the contract like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's really weird. So, yeah. So we know that Kaplan is writing questions, even though they are not a test writing company. We know that the bar wishes. I also took the GRE on a desktop computer back in the day. We probably took it around the same time. And I remember that. Okay. But like, that's not like how the bar works. You just can't roll in on any given Tuesday to like sit for the bar exams. So they still have to come up with these test centers. And then like, there might be litigation. I mean, if I was the NCBE, are their lawyers sitting around thinking?
I mean,
file?
Given that like literally like the press releases are referring to the fact that they're probably going to get sued and that there are indemnification clauses and limits on legal liability in the actual contract, I think it's probably fair to say that no one on any side of this believes that they have resolved the copyright problems.
So basically, the issue is the only winners in this whole thing are whatever big law firm the State Bar and Kaplan have hired to consult on this potential litigation and probably represent them when they get sued. That's really who wins in this.
Maybe some potential class action, attorneys who are licking their chops at this. But then again, who pays out when they lose? Oh, probably the bar if they lose, and then that's us.
Right, which is not fun. I hope they have insurance. Oh no, the whole thing is so stressful. Okay. So, well, this is like feels like one of those COVID podcasts we did back in the day.
I know, where we're just like, what is going on here?
We just don't know what to tell you. We just don't know what to tell you. Well, I guess the thing is, you got to just like accept the chaos, because here's the thing. No individual student has any power to get the bar to change their mind, I don't think. I think you're just at the whim of the bar. Like, the law schools are going to be, like upset and talking to the bar. And, the bar doesn't care what we say, but like they're going to get feedback, I'm sure. But they've signed this contract, so they're probably going forward with it. So you have to decide what you're going to do if you're sitting for a bar in 2025. So you got to focus on what you can control, which, not much. So then you have to say, okay, you go with what you said earlier about like, what do we know? We know that the essays and the performance tests are probably going to stay the same. So, you can focus on those, and there will be multiple choice. So still practicing multiple choice questions is probably still a good thing to do, especially if that's an area of concern for you, it is an area of concern for so many students.
Right. I mean, I think at this point, there aren't going to be any real practice questions. I mean, they might hand out a few, but I mean, I think you just have to assume they're going to be similar to the MBE questions and use a tool for that. I mean, I don't literally don't know what else you would do. Because like we said, it's hard to write these. I mean, no one who does MBE prep specifically is going to be writing their own, because what would they write them based on? They've never seen them.
Right. They've never seen them. And I think the thing is, even within prep companies, like some people find that, U-World MBE questions feel slightly different from Adaptabar MBE questions, which feel slightly different from Barbary MBE question. I mean, they don't all feel the same because they were written by different teams of people with different
Right.
parameters. So we're not going to know exactly what those questions look like. And they're not giving out, I can't remember how many licensed MBE questions we have, but like we have quite a bundle. I mean, maybe we're getting 10. I mean, I doubt we're going to get very many. I think we're going to get a taste. And then everyone
Right.
who's sitting for these tests are going to be the guinea pigs.
Right. I mean, hopefully they release something saying what content's even going to be on it. I mean, are you just to assume that they're using the same exact content that's on the MBE subject matter outline? I don't know.
That's cool. It's so fun to not know. I
Also,
think
like, if they isn't that kind of stealing? I don't know. Not
I
legal
don't
advice,
know.
but just a curiosity.
It's weird. It's weird. And I mean, not just read rumors, but I feel like back in the day, Kaplan got in trouble for copyright infringements with the NCBE.
Maybe.
I had this memory. It was a long time ago, like back in the early days of us working together, but that when they were doing PMBR, which was their like MBE, that some of their questions got a little too close for comfort.
Right.
But that could be my bad memory. But it's very shady because you're trying to write questions that mimic the real questions. I mean, it's going to be very hard. It's just going to be very hard.
Yeah. I mean, do you feed them all into like ChatGPT and then just be like, oh, well, we edited them a little bit? I mean, I would be concerned about that if I was the NCB's copyright lawyer. I mean, I haven't read our contract with them recently, but I'm pretty sure that would not be allowed.
I feel like that's not allowed. I think we aren't even supposed to edit those questions at all. I think we're supposed to leave them as is and say we licensed them. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. I mean, we licensed them a while ago and I haven't read the contract, but I feel like it says something like that. Like, don't mess with our questions.
I mean, you can kind of assume it would.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is that the law schools have to be freaking out because bar pass rates are such a huge, big deal, especially in California for California law schools. I would say that if you have already graduated and maybe you're a retaker for one of these 2025 administrations, maybe circle back with your bar support office, make sure you're on some sort of mailing list, see what they're offering, because they should be front lines for getting some of this information and kind of dispensing it to everybody. But if you're not in school, you just want to make sure you're still getting communications from your school. So that's one of the things I would think about. If I'm not actively in my law school anymore, I need to figure out how the law school is going to tell me what the heck I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, basically, if you are taking one of these tests, you need to keep your eyes out for the prep materials that they say are coming at some point in the fall. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. We'll see.
I mean, the fall is quite a long season, as I was discussing this with my 6-year-olds. Yes, today.
Yeah. I mean, arguably it could start in like, a week and change from when we're recording this on September 1, or maybe not, Are we going by like the lunar calendar? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
At some point, some materials will likely appear. You should probably look at them. But yeah, I mean, I think the schools hopefully are going to be having as much information as they can possibly get and obviously talking to whoever they can talk to. But I mean, the whole thing is just like such a ridiculous mess at this point. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you just have to go into it with this idea that you have to play the hand that you're dealt. This is kind of a crummy hand. So you just have to do the best with it and know that they are probably going to curve it all and everyone's in the same boat. That's the good news.
The only thing I was thinking, I was like, maybe they won't even get around to writing all 200 questions and you'll get a shorter test. Something like that could happen.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows? Who knows?
But no, because this does really feel like a few people. I mean, we've all been in these meetings with high-level people who are just like, yeah, we can do that.
Totally.
You and I have definitely been in some of these meetings where it's like, that would be so easy. And then the people who actually do the work show up and are like, actually, that's a lot harder than you think.
Yeah, this is actually like really hard. They're like people who do PhDs and like things like, validating tests. And there's a whole process. There's some best practices. Best practices, probably not give the test like 6 months or less after you sign a contract. I mean, guessing that's not a best practice.
No, and people litigate over, the SATs, they litigate over the SATs. And then I just feel like this is also ripe for issues of discrimination. That's why you're supposed to validate these tests to try and minimize these things. So then, is that part of the indemnity litigation clauses? I don't know.
I think they just cover, no, I think they just cover the IP actually, from what,
Cool.
the limited information we saw.
What
Yeah,
could go
if you
wrong?
just think about, right, exactly, what could possibly go
What
wrong
could possibly go wrong?
with a bunch of lawyers involved?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at the next gen exam. Like, people think that's moving too fast in certain ways. They have been working on that for literally years. And it is not even coming out for another several years, or a couple of years now at this point. And even now, people are freaking out because they're like, you're supposed to give this in like, what, 2 years now? And we don't even have
Yeah.
a full exam. Like, that's still 2 years away. They've got like pretty decent samples. They're, whatever. It's not like the next test.
And they're trying to calibrate them and like give them to, give the test so people can write answers so they can see what people are doing with it. Like one of the things they're doing is they're like getting groups of people together and giving them these tests. That's like what they're doing. That's what you do
they have been
when
doing
you write a
that.
standardized
They've had
test.
like, they've had like meetings and committees and all kinds of stuff, like, and they're like having discussions about what the content is and fighting over it and then coming back together and then having another list. Like, you can't do that in a few months.
No. Also, they're having webinars for law schools and people who work in test prep, and they're doing interviews with folks like us to talk about it. They're out to educate everyone. And this is not saying like, I think the NCBE does everything right, because I don't. But I'm just saying that is like what they're doing, which is like what you do when you write a new test. Like, I just don't understand it. I don't know. It's all very anxiety inducing.
It is. But again, back to what we control, what we don't control.
I know. It's true.
We do not control what the California bar does. If anyone has not learned that yet. They just do things and people react to them. I just feel badly for the people who are trying to have some sort of orderly preparation period and know that they needed more time and, they thought they were doing the right thing by maybe skipping the last test and like waiting till February. Now they are in a world of chaos.
Yeah. However, I will say that if you have struggled with multiple choice questions, working on any multiple choice questions is probably still a good idea, because even though they're not going to be the same, many people struggle with time management or getting distracted by answer choices or, not carefully reading the facts. There are so many things that we find that folks do struggle with that are going to translate across tests. So at least that that if you are focusing, especially on these execution pieces of the MBE, that is going to translate. Because even if it's on a different subject, let's not even go there, but let's say it's on community property. I don't know, maybe. You still need to have really good skills. Did that just make people more anxious? I just thought about that. I was like, they could be writing community property questions. Like, what?
I feel like we're just going to assume that it's the same like 7 MBE topics, unless there's a way that could be infringing copyright. I feel like that's like I feel like you could use the same material because that's like black letter law. It's not really copyrightable. As long as you make your own outline, like
I know, but what about those like study guides, the ones that do all the subjects and all the stuff that's covered? That's probably copyrighted.
Yeah, people presumably will still buy stuff from the NCBE because I can't imagine that California is going to put out like a full subject matter outline of like rules at this point.
No, but then I think the easiest way to get around some of those copyrights would be to test the California specific subjects, because...
But that would be total insanity. Let's face it, they have nothing to work off of with those.
That's true. They don't even have a model for that.
Also that would be like even more unfair than ever, but... because all these people who are going to find out in November that they didn't pass, they've got at that point a pretty limited time to study. There's no way that you could just like switch all of the multiple choice topics. That would be even more insane.
Yeah. I hope so.
I mean, maybe I'm giving a little more credit than is
I-
due here, but I'm like, surely not. But then we're like, surely you wouldn't do this. So
I know.
who
I
knows?
mean, this whole thing is pretty crazy. But I think the one thing I will say is that if somebody is listening to this and waiting for their bar results and is feeling like they might have really failed, not the type of I think I failed, like everybody gets a little anxious that they failed, but maybe something happened that really makes you think that you might have failed. I do think that if you're really worried about this new multiple choice question section, spending a little time brushing up on your performance tests while you're waiting for results. I mean, I'm not talking about like studying 20 hours a week. I'm talking about, 3 hours on a Saturday or something like that, but just not losing some of those skills. So you could maybe spend a little more time on the multiple choice. That is one thing you could do. Not that you need to, but if you're really worried, you could use that type of an activity as an insurance policy.
Yeah.
But it's all just so bizarre. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry. I didn't think this was a possibility. I mean, no, we didn't.
This wasn't on the 2024 bingo card.
No, it was not. It was not. I was so confused when I got the note while I was on vacation. I was like, what is this person talking about?
Right. Well, it's kind of like what they did with a baby bar, if you like, even, maybe like half a year ago, where suddenly they're like, oh, by the way, that whole test is multiple choice. Moving on. And everyone's like, wait, what? I'm sorry, was this like under discussion? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Same thing.
And the baby bar is not just like a road to licensure, but for some students, it's like how they get back into law school when they've been academically dismissed. And so like a lot is writing on the baby bar. And they're just like, we're going to change it. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually like the most infuriating thing to me about this whole thing is like these are actually people's like lives and careers. And like I feel like it's very disrespectful to just be like, oh, well, we're just changing everything and we're not providing you any information at all, but I'm sure it'll all work out. Good luck, bye. And also give us a lot of money to take this test.
I know. And then I also feel like you're going to end up with this chaotic situation of like possible litigation. And then are they just going to like wave people in? I mean, it's some of the same stuff we were talking about in 2020 with COVID. It's like, what are they going to do if this is a true disaster? And I mean, in that case, they didn't end up waving a bunch of folks in. But they still had a test that was tested. I mean, even writing these essay questions, they take forever to write these questions. I mean, it just seems so crazy to me that they think that they have to be considering to use AI to do this faster. I don't understand how they think that this is going to happen this fast.
Yeah, which, we've all seen mixed results with our explorations of the AI tools out there. Like, can you make them write some questions? Sure. Is that question like a great question? Maybe not. And I can't imagine there are that many people who really want to sit around who like don't already work for the NCB or something like that want to sit around and write a bunch of these questions because it's really not a lot of fun.
No. Okay. Well, this was a stressful podcast. So I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. Everybody needs to take a deep breath, and we'll get through this together. But it is going to be rocky, guys. We'll figure it out. We will keep sharing news once we hear it. I mean, who knows? But no more vacations for us. Like, we just have to stay online and see what happens. But, we'll keep talking about it. And I think everyone's just going to have to kind of hang in. It's a little bit like COVID. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but there will be some sort of a test. There'll be a chance for you to get a license.
Some people will pass.
Some people will pass. Won't. We're going to help you try to pass. A lot of other people are going to try and help you pass. And take some deep breaths. It's a good time to create a meditation practice.
Yeah, get your self-care in order. All right, everybody.
Yes.
Well, thanks for watching. You can check out barexamtoolbox.com for more helpful tips. You can sign up for our email newsletter. We will try to keep you updated. You can learn more about our tutoring and course options for California, the UBE, and please subscribe so you don't miss anything. We'll talk soon.